Hello and good day. Hi, this is Greg. I want to do like pretty much a little bit of talking about Endgame, Avenger Endgames. And so what I want to talk about is just a few of the topics that were on my mind. And so I went ahead and put together a list of different things that jumped out to me. But one of which I want to kind of exposit a little bit about Mr. Tony Stark, Mr. Robert Downey Jr., who played Iron Man. And Iron Man happened to be a very straightforward character in this. You've seen him when you got to this end game. After seeing him go through, let's see, Iron Man started as a pretty much as a playboy billionaire who didn't care about anything but his own self, to where he got into a terrorist situation and his heart was like pretty much damaged. His heart was damaged, And then over the course of the history of all the different Marvel movies, you go from Iron Man to where he has his heart is damaged, to where it's like when you get Iron Man 2 where he's like slowly starting to die and he realizes his own mortality. And there's a part I remember in the very beginning when he starts talking to Iron Man 1, how after he got out of the cave, and how his situation with his dad was like all about like how he hadn't had a good relationship with his father, and he got all broken up and teary eyed about it. He started to cry. Well, it just it seemed like he was about to cry as he eating the Burger King. It was an aspect where he was talking about like how he wished he had time to spend with his father. And as every kid knows they want to spend time with their dad, with their mom. It's like almost as if your mom's love is given, and maybe not in everybody's cases, but mom's love is given, and a dad's love is it has to be like quote unquote earned. You have to get it to where your dad is interested in your conversation. Some dads, I have one of those one of those dads who listen to my children and they tell me stories all the time. But in a scenario with Tony Stark, he felt like he had to earn his father's love, and he just had odds with him, and he still had played out in different movies how to unveil more of his relationship with his father and his mother and his family. So in the first Iron Man, he had a problem with his heart. His heart was in the wrong place. The second, and after he got into an accident, his heart was damaged and had to be temporarily fixed. So Iron Man 2, the stuff that was keeping him alive, his life support system was actually failing. So he had to figure out a new way, and that's created a new element and everything like that. And then learn about how to work together with a team. Like, here's working with Black Widow and with Pepper, and also with, Black Widow, Pepper, and Rhodey, um, you know, in Iron Man 2. When he got to Avengers, there was a question where he had about laying down his life, and laying down his life for the sake of the team, and he did that. He took the rocket and he was able to take the rocket up, and he wasn't sure how he's going to fall back through the hole, but he went up and he was able to do that. And when he came up, he did that. That was something where he started to have like Iron Man 3 started to have post traumatic stress disorder, and and heavy anxiety about the situation, about how what it's like to lose it all. You have a thing also where he got to Age of Ultron. He got really fearful, and he wanted to make like an armored shield around the world somehow, some kind of robot army. He started making the Iron Legion, and started making and eventually ended up making Ultron. And Ultron was a murder bot, really, and it just tried to almost destroy the whole world, by causing to drop like Sokovia onto land and causing like a big old meteorite explosion and impact with ash cloud and everything like that. And so after that, you got to the whole thing with Civil War, and in Civil War, he began to take responsibility for all of his actions, and he saw that his necessary need for having to fix himself and be responsible for his actions. That before he was just like kind of doing stuff, and they're fighting Loki and stuff in Avengers, the first Avengers. But when he got to Civil War, realized how many people have gotten hurt and collateral damage. Then the next thing too, when you got to he learned in Civil War about how Bucky was Captain America's friend, and Captain America was protecting him at all costs to keep him alive, and that he knew about the fact that his parents got killed by him, and so that kind of put him into a situation where, him trying to get the Avengers to sign the Sokovia Agreement, ended up having it where it became a thing where he himself found that they didn't want to do it because they figured that people. At that point for Captain America, he wasn't trusting the government anymore because he figured that the government itself could be corrupted by like Hydra in the case, and even in our government we have maybe a deep state of different things that are at work that are keeping our government from functioning as properly as it could. And so there's agents and elite agents that are working to make sure and undermine that, make sure that the elite agenda continues, and the preservation of the elite. They call things like Agenda 21, the deep state, things like that, and the Illuminati, and many different types of secret societies that are listed to keep things in going. So in Marvel they have the Hydra, and Hydra is the link with them trying to like also like Nazis type thing to keep the elite and keep those in the dark So finally you get to Cap learns that his parents got killed. Iron Man learns that his parents got killed, and that they have a falling away, and they're no longer friends anymore. So when they get to Infinity War, they're not talking to each other. Everything has suspended. 2 years have passed since Civil War, and the last thing was that Captain America, he gave the shield. He took the Captain America dropped the shield at the end of Civil War, and then pretty much. So how it goes back to between Civil War and Infinity War, they have a thing where you have Spider-Man Homecoming, and Spider-Man Homecoming, you have where Tony's trying his best to try and mentor somebody because he has like no children, and he has he learned his father died. He learned his father was proud of him in Iron Man Part 2, that he wished he could have spent more time with them. But then when he saw the thing about how his father got killed by Bucky, that kind of like put him over the edge, and they got into a fight, and they fought each other. And long story short, in Endgame, when we got to Infinity War, and we finally and when Tony lost Spider-Man, and he lost everybody in Spider-Man, he was just pretty much at the end of his rope, nothing left, and so he's kind of the easiest of all the characters to kind of explain, because it's like in Endgame, when you get to Endgame, he gets everything back, and then he has a daughter, and his daughter's name is Morgan, and 5 years, has passed, and it's really a spoiler. I should give you a spoiler or warning in the beginning, that is pretty much what happens is you go through a scenario where he loses his life, and he has his heart. The last thing he said in the first movie was, "I am Iron Man." Last thing he says in this movie before he dies is, "I am Iron Man." And it goes from where his heart goes from being a cold stone to where his heart is truly a living, protected iron. I should find the right words. His heart, it becomes like a living entity. It's like it goes from being a damaged heart, all about himself, to where he's willing to lay down his life, and finally rest, because Thanos was the one he was dreaming about when when Infinity War happened. He said, "I've been dreaming about this guy since the Battle of New York, since he saw Loki." And so pretty much he's been dreaming about this guy, the Thanos guy. And so finally he met him. And when he met him, the first time he stabs him, and this time he destroyed him with a snap of the finger. And so with that, it's like one of the things where it's kind of like, a life that's been transformed. And so this has been very good in terms of 11 years, 2008, starting with the whole Iron Man and ending with Avengers Endgame, watching how Tony Stark and Robert Downey Jr. has pretty much transformed from being even as an actor, going from being a selfish person to be not so much an actor. I don't know his actor life. I just know how it's gotten better for him as a person, and how this is kind of like his defining role, and they're kind of pushing for him to get an Oscar for the stuff he's did in this movie, and just how he played the part of Iron Man. And I have to admit that this ending was a really beautiful ending in terms of application to lives, about how a person can change, and this shows a transformation, how a person can go from one system of thought and paradigm and ability. He was a billionaire in the beginning, and he was a billionaire in the end. He was always smart in between all of it, but what it was that he grew a heart, he grew compassion and love for people, to where some of the mistakes that he made was really detrimental and very dangerous. He made some bad mistakes, good intentions, bad decisions, bad mistakes. And eventually he got to the point where he realized, and he got a chance to even talk to his father, which he had always wanted to do. As a man, talking to another man, talking to his father, and his father didn't know it was him, and he was able to talk to him and give a heart-to-heart with his dad, something he always wanted to have. And he gave his dad a hug and everything like that, and and it was just it's very interesting how this all worked out. I was really impressed by that. If there's anything about this movie that I have absolutely no flaw with, is with the relationship with Tony to all the other characters in this movie, and how Tony went from in a sense a lost soul to a man who was willing to sacrifice and lay down his life for people he loved. And so I just want to say that that's one of the things I want to talk about. I'm going to probably do another something just a little bit, just so I can have more opportunity to talk about stuff. So just want to say thank you for listening. This one is about Tony and about an Iron Man. Okay, I'll talk to you in my next one in a few. All right, thank you.